I'm Duane Brumitt. He's Allie Alberigo, and this is the School Owner Talk podcast. Hello again, Duane Brumitt here with Allie Alberigo, schoolownertalk.com. Allie, good morning.
Good morning, Duane. How are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
I can't complain. I hear a little bit of an echo coming back. Is that your microphone? Oh no, now it's gone.
Okay. Yeah. No, I was gonna say I didn't hear it, but
yeah, it was slapping back on my side. But yeah, things are good. Like I can't complain. And you know, it's funny. I was talking to, and you probably have a lot of insight on this, that because it's a spiritual thing too, with religion and God. And but I was talking to a friend who's my age, 58, who's always, like upset that this one died and that one died. And do you remember there were cards that were made by Alan Goldberg? They were like a martial art playing card. And anyway, there's like a deck of cards every year. And so I have them and I save them, but I use them the kids throw them like shuriken. So before I was going through the cards, I was going, take that guy out, he passed away. Take that guy out, he passed away. There's like 25 people on those decks of cards over the last 8 years, 7, 8, or 10 years that had passed away. So today we were talking about how lucky we are to be alive. And then I went even further, and I'm sure you can attest to this, is like we have a job that we're so lucky to have, and, be able to do what we do and make our own schedule. And, you basically, if you got to go somewhere, you pick up and go. You don't really have anyone say, no, you don't have enough vacation days, right? Like things like that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, isn't that nice? I mean, but we worked to get there. It's not like we all of a sudden got there. I mean, think about how many hours and days and how many things that you missed because, you worked. I don't know about you. I worked. So our wedding, my wife and I's wedding, was on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I worked that morning. I don't even remember when we said I do. Like it could have been at 4:30 at night or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever it was. I know I worked until 1 or 2 that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go. You answered with the exact same way my friend worked. And it's almost like a defense mechanism to be like, well, we did work hard. We deserve what we have. And that's absolutely true. But isn't it interesting, like how many people work in their jobs, and it's okay to not love your job, but when you hate your job every day, like to the point where you just are in misery from 8 or 9 to 5, just imagine like the torture that must be. And I feel, look, I'm sure you do too, but I feel sometimes like, man, life is tough and I don't want to go in the dojo and I don't want to teach and I don't want to have to deal with this or that. It's part of life, but you and I have built a position in life where we can make a choice and say, hey, I'm taking off.
Well, check this out. So next week we've got I only do 3 summer camps a summer. So 1 week every 1 week per month in the summer. So next week we have our camp, and the guy that's running it, he's working Monday through Thursday. He can't be there Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And it was already pre-planned. And so I totally forgot about it. Mr. Bean, I talked to him with him yesterday because, of course, we needed to meet face to face. I've been gone for a week, so we got to get caught up. And he said, "Hey, POTUS is gone next Friday," and I'm like, "He is?"
Yeah.
And I totally forgot. Anyways, long story short, Bean says to me, "I'll run the camp." Now he's salary, so that's going to add hours to his day, and he's not getting paid anymore.
Right.
And I told him, you know what? I don't want you to have to do that. I'll run the camp. So I'm going to run the camp on Friday.
Nice.
And I'm not bringing that up to be like nice, like to get praise, but thank you. But it's like, I don't want him to have to do that. I'm very thankful that he said, I'll run it.
Yeah. I had that same situation with my main guy. He wasn't supposed to run camp, and he stayed because it was a brand new kid, a little kid, and the parents weren't going to leave her because she didn't know anybody. It was the first time. She's not a student. So he ended up staying the entire day just to make sure that kid was happy. So at afternoon, he said, "Is it okay if I take tonight off?" And I'm like, I wasn't planning on going in. And I'm like, really? You sure? We're going to Florida. We're doing this. We're doing that. He's like, well, I just been here all day. I'm like, you know what? Yes. Like what can you say? Like the guy's working so hard, dedicating his time. He switched his schedule to spend the entire day just because of that kid. He's a company player, right? Like that guy. So I was like, yes. Like at first I was resisting. But then I go, look, I could go in. And it was my light day anyway. It was like 2 classes because we had black belt club. So, and then I ended up having a blast. But yeah, we are lucky to be able to do what we do.
Yeah. I like when I'm in my meeting with Bean yesterday too, he said, now you can say no, it's not a big deal. And I'm thinking, okay, what is he going to ask?
Yeah.
And he says, so just to put it in context, our first degree black belt class, because we have a first degree black belt class and then we have a second and third degree class on Tuesday, Thursdays. But our first degree black belt class is on Mondays. Monday and Wednesdays. And he said, what would you think about POTUS? Because that's like my next guy coming up. What would you think about him running that black belt class? I get off early so that I can spend time with my girls before they go to bed.
Right.
He said, but I don't need that to start until September, until after this next testing cycle. And I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know how much I missed by not being at home at night.
Right.
If I can give him 2 nights a week that he gets just an hour back, actually probably more like an hour and a half after you get done cleaning and everybody leaves and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, do it. I said, but we do need to adjust your, when you're coming in.
Right.
So we're going to have you come in at 1 instead of 2 and those type of things. And he's like, yep, that's perfectly fine. I kind of figured that that's what would happen. And
it's funny. We just started talking about a topic, but I'm thinking to myself, like, wait, we got to get on topic of what we're supposed to talk about. But we're actually on topic because the topic is about that book you recommended to me called Crucial Conversations. And I have to tell you, I've used it like 3 times already. The book's a little dry, a little bit slow. I'm listening to it on audio, but the content is really, really amazing. And I've had a few opportunities to actually use the stuff in the book. How about you? Did you finish the book? Did you like it?
Yeah, I'm almost done with it. I haven't finished it yet, but I would agree with you. It is dry in some areas, but when they get to the meat, you're like, holy cow. I don't know about you, but I go, man, I've been deficient in a lot of these areas. And then there's a few that I'm like, okay, yeah, I got that one down, but
Right. I made a post the other day. I put it on just a business page. I think I put it on our School Owner Talk page, or I might have put it on the other one. But I talked about, I took a copy of a conversation that I had with a parent, and they were about to renew their kid. Obviously, though, I usually do it 2 months in advance. They made me wait till the day before. And then they start haggling with me as far as price goes. And we don't want to do this. Or, in our school, I used to have a program where at purple belt and above, you had to join our black belt club. My mindset is the black belt club is accelerated training. You're 2 levels away from being a black belt. So I want them to go through a little bit more training, be a little bit more serious, and be more focused on that. So it was mandatory purple and above, purple, brown, and black and above to be in our black belt club. But I got a lot of resistance because of the days I did it. On a Monday night, last Monday of the month, I do seminars, and they go, well, we can't make it. So I don't want to pay for something that I can't make. So I shifted the way I presented it. And I said, okay, purple belts and above pay a tuition increase. And that's because of the material and the curriculum and the intensity and all that other stuff. And I said, but you also get the black belt club included in the price. So whether you make it or not, that's okay with me. You do get a uniform every year, quilted heavyweight gi, patches, and so on. 10% off on all your gear and all this stuff. So the mom anyway was giving me a hard time, but we can't make black belt club. And I said, it doesn't matter. The tuition goes up. And they're already in the black belt club, believe it or not. And she wanted to downgrade to save some money. And I said, well, we can't do that. This is it. Well, and she played hardball with me. It's either going to be that you do a 1 day a week program or we're leaving. So I had to say, you know what? I'm not able to do that for you. It's not fair to others. And I used a lot of the tactics in the Crucial Conversations book about how to present, the benefits versus just, lay down a hard line and say tough luck or you're out. But it ended up that they didn't sign up, and they ended up giving up 4.5 years of training because the mom wouldn't spend an extra $20 a month or $24 a month. So, but the book was interesting because I think they talk a little bit about violence, aggressive conversation, and they talk about, figuring out solutions. I forget what the terminology is, violence or solutions, but that's sometimes where you start a conversation and the other person immediately becomes defensive. Right. And we have to kind of get that and take that away, or else the conversation is not going to go the way we want. So do you have any techniques that you use, like not necessarily from the book, but like when you're dealing with an aggressive person in your school, meaning like, they're angry or they're mad? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, well, normally I will ask them, if it, what would be the perfect solution in this situation if you could choose one.
Yeah.
And allow them to say what the perfect solution to the situation. And I'll give you an actual one. So I had a parent text me yesterday because we have a leadership team. The way that we do our testings, we do testings every quarter. So this is the June, July, and August quarter. Well, they have a topic. They have information that they have to read. I've created some booklets, some leadership booklets they have to read, and then they have to answer the questions, turn it in. And some of them even have essays that they have to write. Not a very big essay, but, it could be a 1-page essay, right?
Right.
And it all has to be, in this quarter, it has to be done by July 31st. Well, what was yesterday? August 1st.
Yeah, right.
The mom or the dad, I guess, either went to the studio or called Bean. He probably called Mr. Bean and talked to him saying, hey, this is what happened. This is why our son did not turn in his information. It was not his fault. It was all of our, it was our fault as parents, blah, 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 blah. Now, the kid, I think he's 10.
Yeah.
So I understand that it's not his fault.
Right.
But it's still his responsibility to get it turned in on time.
Yeah.
So then mom decides to text me, even though she, her husband already got a hard no from Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
Mr. Bean's like, look, we can't do this.
Well, he's important, and Mr. Bean is in control, but you're the big boss. I'll go above him and see if I could pull at your heartstrings, right?
Yes. And so, with that conversation, she texted me and she told me everything that has happened. And yeah, it's sad, not sad. I mean, it's hectic. It's chaotic. Yeah. I don't want to say sad. It's just hectic, chaotic. Nobody died.
Yeah.
They just have a lot of things going on. And so in that conversation, I already knew in a perfect world what she wanted. So I didn't have to ask that question, in a perfect world, but how can we solve this problem? I said, I understand what you would like me to do, right. But you guys also, and she used this, we've been at the studio for almost 10 years because our oldest one is a 2nd-degree black belt. And he actually at one time failed to turn in some stuff and he actually had to wait another 6 months for his right. 2nd-degree black belt test. They were livid. So, in that conversation, of course, she brings up the fact that she's been there forever, as if that's leverage.
Right.
And so I go, I understand, and I'm sorry. So I sympathized with the fact that they had a lot going on. These things happen. Totally understand. I did bring up the fact that, you guys decided to be in the leadership team. Your son wanted to do that. Try not to use names. Your son wanted to do that. And with that came with the responsibilities of turning, your stuff in on time.
Right.
You got to know your material on time and you got to turn your information in on time.
Yeah.
And how fair would that be
if you let them go and not let others?
If I let you go and just because you've been there for so long,
right.
You've been there for so long and that we don't let these things slide.
Right. Right.
It's kind of how now she's pissed, but she's been pissed before.
But she's not pissed at you though. Honestly, she probably thinks she is, but she's really pissed at herself and that she couldn't get away with it. So like that's in the crucial conversations as well. In the book, they talk about that, like, blame and people accepting blame or fault and so on. Like that mom that I talked about that didn't want to upgrade to the program or wanted to downgrade, they did the same thing to me. And at one point I said, they said, we stuck with you through COVID. And when you condensed the two schools into one, and we were loyal to you and we've been with you for years, doesn't that mean anything to you? I said, how about this? Let's shift it. I actually wrote this. I said, how about this? We'll shift that. Thank you, Shion, for staying open during COVID and giving our son a place to be when the entire world shut down and abandoned us. Thank you for doing all the nice things that you did, and respect that, let's be honest, let's be nice about it and respectful. And let's not go tit for tat and saying, blaming others. I said, look, it's only a matter of $24. It's not a lot of money. You could think about it. It's like 270 something bucks a year. I go, there's other ways to save that money on other things other than our school, because these are our rules. They've been like that. Well, I didn't know about it. I said, ma'am, you've been in the Black Belt Club. You're in it already. You knew about it, that kind of thing. So it's hard how we present ourselves. And that's why I love that book. It has a lot of solutions.
Yeah. And what I like is it takes the emotion out of the conversation. It doesn't negate their feelings per se, but it allows you to craft the conversation in a way that really solves the problem and gets down to the root of things. And again, like what you said, it doesn't do the tit for tat,
Right.
I was loyal, and I love how you shifted that.
Yeah.
We were there for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what, you only did that for me and I owe you, like you kept my business open. There was many people that did abandon us and just disappeared, but they stuck with it. But obviously we gave them an amazing service, because they wouldn't have stuck with it if they didn't feel that. We were doing, what did we do, Duane? We were so many things that we did. We were doing like scavenger hunts and, all these different fun events and great things.
Well, you brought different instructors in to teach. I mean, I think I taught for you at one time.
Yeah, and I think I did it for you, or no? I
Yeah,
think we had Kenny Bigby in, and he taught, from Indiana. So it's interesting. I think that I think it's interesting at how people will shift when they feel like their only choice is that. And what I don't think it's called violence in my opinion, real life, but in this book, they say the act of violence where people get angry and they start to be aggressive and they start to blame you and say things like, hey, we did this for you. Why aren't you doing it for me? Kind of thing. I had another situation where I used this book. I was on about chapter 5, and I had a meeting with a parent who seemed really unhappy. And it's a dad. He's kind of a strong construction guy. He's a single dad. He's got like 6 kids. He's works hard, right? But we are having some little issues, so I brought him in. But in my head, I was listening to the book, and I'm like, I'm going to align myself with him. Like, it's not him and I having a conversation about what we're not doing to meet. I'm going to talk to him about how we could work together. So he has a young kid. He's a teenager. He's like 14 or 15. And he's like one of those kids. He doesn't wear his uniform like he's supposed to. He doesn't show up on time, doesn't come prepared. So I said to the dad, I said, listen, how do you want me to work with your son? Like, do you want me to be hard on him when he doesn't show up prepared, or you want to let me have him slide? He goes, oh, no, I want you to be hard on him. Like, I thought he'd be like, no, back off, that kind of thing. But it was actually the opposite. So we kind of like joined as a team to realign his son's attitude and behavior. And I said, well, you tell me how you would handle this with your son and how you want me to handle it. And he did. He laid it out for me, and we came out with the same result, because I wanted to tell him that's what I'm going to do. But he actually told me to do it, because he knew how his son was and how he wanted me to act and how he wanted his son to, come prepared and so on. So it was funny, because I was prepared for a battle, but it didn't happen that way. It was him and I, and we were joined together as a team coming up with a plan.
No, and I love how you, even just mentally, you entered the conversation with being aligned with him, so that it wasn't adversarial at all.
Right, exactly.
When you guys got together, and to his benefit too, he was willing to, come alongside as a team and make the kid and that child's best interest the focus, rather than our own egos being the focus on I'm right, you're wrong, those type of things.
Yeah, and isn't it always like when people feel backed into a corner, what they do is they lash out rather than if you like. I once went to a Tony Robbins sub seminar. It wasn't Tony Robbins, but it was a guy selling by doing a seminar. He was selling Tony Robbins seminars.
Yeah.
And so I went to it in the city, and the guy had trained in Aikido. And of course, he's like, can I have a partner? I'm going to show some Aikido. And I'm like, boom, I'm right up on stage. Like, I was
I'm on it
right there. Yeah, I'm all in. And so he goes, grab my wrist and don't let me go and pull me to where you want to go. And I did. And he pulled back, and we were like at a standstill. It was like a tug of war where both strengths were pulling in opposite directions. And he let go. I let go. And he said, then he explained, he said, do this now. He says, grab me and pull me as hard as you can. And as I did, he just walked with me. No matter where I pulled him, he just moved with the flow and no resistance. And then he explained, he goes, resistance meets resistance. And when you flow with the energy of someone else, now you join. So if they pull you super hard and you move with them, they pull themselves super hard.
Yes.
And I thought about that in many contexts, right? Like I thought about that as an argument, relationship issues, business issues, where sometimes as a young man, I was always trying to make it my way, forcing my will. Right now, I kind of a little bit more strategic, and I'm like, listen, I'm doing this for you. If you don't want me to ask you to go to tournaments anymore and push it, I'm not gonna, because now you're gonna miss out on that opportunity. But I will continuously mention it, but I'm not gonna force you. So because I'm kind of flowing with the Aikido and the flow of the energy that way.
Yeah. Well, that's like, even with my health coaching, I'll talk with them and I say, we got a couple of different ways that we can do this. But I need to ask you, how do you want me to lead you in this health journey?
Right.
Do you want me to be sympathetic?
Mm-hmm.
And do you want me to be okay when you're having a hard time and you're going to, you're eating that candy bar and you're drinking that alcoholic drink or whatever it is, and do you want me to kind of coddle you?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want me to politely come alongside you, hold you up, call you out, remind you of why you're wanting to make changes in your health? Like, how do you want me to coach you?
Right.
And so I allow them to tell me how they want to be coached.
Yeah, that's a great, look, I'm thinking of that. Let's put that in the context of martial arts. If we had that conversation with parents, like, how do you want me to coach you when Johnny wants to quit? Are you willing to listen to what I have to say? And we could try some strategies to get him to go and continue going. Or are you just willing to throw your hands in the air and keep me? Because what happens is people keep us out of the conversation. And they deal with their little inner struggle. They fight with their kid. They try to manipulate, bribe, whatever. And if that doesn't work, then they come to us and say, hey, I'm throwing my hands in the air. We're giving up. He wants to quit. If you could establish ahead of time, onboard them early and say, look, this is what happens. And it's going to happen. They're going to want to quit at some point. They're going to get bored. But what will you do? And how do you want me to do it? Should I be mean? Ignore it? Should I not care? Or should I stand alongside of you? And as a team, we guide them through.
Yeah. And I think that's where the conversation needs to happen is, what are your goals for your child through the martial arts? So meaning, what is it that you would like your child to achieve? Let's just say by black belt or beyond.
Right. Right.
And these are some of the qualities and things that people have wanted to achieve. Like, so we do need to feed them some of the qualities. I want my kid to be a leader, not a follower. Yeah. Right. I want them to be physically fit. I want them to be able to defend themselves. I want them to have confidence. Right. I want them to have follow through. So then when they say all of those things, then we're able to come back to that conversation and say, look, I know it's difficult right now to get Johnny into class. I know that he'd rather be outside playing with his friends, especially since it's summertime. But we talked about the fact that you said X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Right. And the only way that we can do that is when we come alongside together. Now, I can give you some tips on how to get him to come into class, besides the fact that, you can just say, hey, look, we're a martial arts family and this is what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean, I've had parents do that where they go, we're a martial arts family. This is what we do. And we do it together as a family.
Yeah. And you know what? Like when I trained with my teacher back in the day, you were lucky to be accepted as a student. And if you pissed him off and even my teacher in Japan, at any given moment, he could just get rid of you and you're out. Like you've made your mistakes over and over. And they're like, you know what? No more. And you're done. So when people think with that fear, like if I do it wrong, I'm not prepared, I don't wear my uniform, I don't do my essay, then maybe we're going to get kicked out of the school. There's that little bit more of a intense fear that we have. And, we're going to not cross that line, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, what I've picked up in the book is the fact that, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, I have a few things that I've been doing right. I think that there's a lot of things that I have just let situations dictate how I'm going to respond. And having I like to call it a framework, but having a framework to be able to work from, I think really makes these opportunities a whole bunch better. What I would actually like to do is go back through the book. And like when they're talking about I'm going to call it frameworks, these different frameworks, actually write them out and label the framework the way that they label it, use their definitions, and then have these bullet points to go back and refer to. That's kind of like what I did with, remember the book I gave you, The Art of Negotiation?
Yeah. Yeah. Was it with the guy who was the CIA, FBI hostage negotiator?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen. First, I have to say that book literally changed my life. Like that book was amazing. And that was one of those books, like you gave me like a pile of gold. That was what it's valued at to me, because he was so good and the stuff. And then I even went on to take one of his master classes that he did on masterclass.com. Such a great book. Amazing. But yeah, so good. I use those techniques to save money on bills and negotiations on loans and all sorts of crazy stuff. What a great book.
Yeah, it was. I know what I was going to say too. Going back to like the lady that I was talking to yesterday is, it's really just not owning up to your own responsibility, taking responsibility for your actions. Yeah. So for instance, I'm going to bring this up. I've not responded to you about it, but you've messaged me about it.
Right.
But see, it's my responsibility. We've got a course it's a Cardone course that we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say we're doing because I'm paying part of it.
Yeah.
Right. But tell the listeners what I've not done.
Yeah. You haven't done anything. You've not checked in. And I feel bad because, believe it or not, and I feel bad because every month your credit card is a small portion of it is coming out, but it's up in 2 months. Like it expires. They just called me the other day. And, can you want to renew and, do more? And I'm like, well, I don't know, because it's quite expensive. So, but it was great. I'm on it all the time. But yeah, I've told you to do it. You would love it.
But I know, but I bring that up because that's all I said. Yes. And I've not followed through with it. But what am I still doing?
Yeah. Paying for it. So, right.
And it's not your fault. I don't fault you at all.
Yeah.
I could come to you and say, Allie, we need to stop these payments. I'm not using it. And, I don't see any worth in it or whatever. Like, come on.
I get it though. But, but you're different, right? Like, so most of our clients, like I would say a good majority of them, they don't have that integrity or morality. Like for instance, they'll sign up and give you a credit card, then they quit and they know they have a contract. So now what they do now is, because it's so easy, they just go cancel their credit card. We just had that with the website guy. We built this gorgeous website. It took us hundreds of hours. He kept tweaking it, and after 3 months of being with us, he just stopped paying. And we're stuck with all that time invested, because the way our website business is set up, we have a residual monthly payment. And then after about 8 or 9 months, we finally make back the time that we put in. Well, this guy, after 3 or 4 months, just stopped paying and canceled his credit card and doesn't answer his texts, emails, phone calls, just totally gone. He ghosted us. So I'm like, wow. And he's a martial artist. I'm holding up my quote fingers for just the listeners. That's supposed to have honor and integrity and be a good person. But in the world we live in, it's about convenience, morality.
So you can't go put on the homepage.
We could, but you know what? Like my partner wants to write a Google review and don't trust this guy. He steals from people.
No,
but
you should have a thing on the front page that pops up. It's a popover, and it just says, something like, this is under, I don't know, something like until he pays his bill, you can't use this website.
Yeah, this page is no longer in action because he hasn't paid his bill, and yeah, you know what? I look at that stuff though as like, I think I'd be justified in doing something like that, but then it looks bad for us.
I agree. No, I agree. But it
is like emotional blackmail in a way, right? That's But anyway, this way I look at this with clients. Hey, you used to be this because now you're not that. I'm not going to pay you anymore. But when it never ever was brought up until they stopped paying and you got on them, right? Like all of a sudden you went. I always say you go from like Jesus Christ, which you can never be, right? But you go from like a saint to the devil in like one sentence, like because you didn't do what they wanted and they've turned on you, and that's just human nature. But anyway. Do you have any more you want to talk about the book? Because we did say we're going to work on sales tactics and closing tactics, and we're at that half an hour mark.
That's fine. No, that's good.
Yeah. So
I would encourage everybody to get the book.
Encourage it. Crucial Conversations. I got it on audio. Obviously, you could buy the book or listen to it, and it was really good. There's a few really good books that Duane has recommended to me, or we've shared back and forth. One of them was Atomic Habits. The other one was Onboarding, which these were life-changing books. And the other one was The Art of Negotiation. I forget if that's the correct title.
Yeah, I don't remember which.
Yeah, but he was so good and the book was so good. And these are books that, sometimes you read a book that literally at that moment clicks with your soul and it shapes your life. That's like, wow, that's how I'm doing it now from now on. So these books are really, really, and in fact, I think we did a review way back when, a podcast on those books.
Yeah. Well, not the Crucial Conversation one.
No, yeah. That's what but the other ones, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, so our next topic was on, and by the way, a lot of this stuff that I'm going to share and stuff that you're going to share, I got mine recently from Grant Cardone. And his Cardone University, and not a cheap project. Like it cost me $800 a month to be in his university. So I'm really taking advantage of it. I will work and listen. And then at the end of every subject, you have to take a test. If you pass the test, you move on. If you don't, you're stuck on the same thing. But I've gotten a lot of really great things. And the one thing that really interested me about this particular topic was on setting up the perfect greeting and how to work the greeting to the sale, right? And how important that initial first meeting is and how you handle things from there on in. And I forget where I was recently. I forget what, and my daughter and I and my wife, and I'm like, this is terrible service. Like the guy, I'm sorry. I went to Tesla my car was in the shop, and we stood there for like 15 minutes while the guy was on the phone looking down and looking away, but not once did he glance over and say, I'll be right with you. Like even whisper it, so that I knew that he acknowledged that I was still waiting, that kind of thing. And I said, terrible customer service.
Yes.
But then once he took care of me, stellar customer service, like amazing. Like once but at that moment in time, I felt like I was standing there alone, lost.
He wasn't able to multitask.
Yeah, I guess he couldn't. He couldn't even just look up and hold up a one finger, right? But so anyway, this, how do you develop a highly successful, perfect greeting process? So maybe you could share what you do when, and by the way, the greeting starts at the first point of contact. That could be the ad in the paper, the ad on Google, the ad on Facebook, whatever you're doing to get them to initially raise their hand, like you say, and say, hey, I'm interested, right? So what do you do? Like, what's your processes?
Yeah, well, I would say first thing, if you're going to start with advertising, which you're right, that is the first contact with them. And you've brought this up hundreds of times, but everything needs to be congruent. So the congruency of your ad to your website, to your school, the look, the feel, the smell, And not that you can smell things through an ad, but really just the whole aura of that ad all the way through the website to the actual studio itself.
Yeah.
Those are all important. The other thing is, I mean, this sounds stupid, but your windows need to be cleaned.
Mm-hmm.
When people are walking in, your floor needs to be clean.
Yeah.
The place needs to smell good. How bad, or how many times do we struggle with making our place smell good for years? I've got one of those ionizers now, and I run that every night, and the place smells like, it doesn't even smell like feet anymore.
Yeah, and we got rid of all products that could contain and trap and hold moisture, like carpets. We got rid of them. Everyone, now we're just hardwood floors, and the only thing is our mats, but our mats are Swain, so they're vinyl, and we wash and mop all the time. But that's a big deal. Like, you want people to think that your place is not maintained, smells like a foot locker or a locker room or something like that.
Yeah, and the last part about this before we get into the actual greeting when they walk in is the fact that your bathrooms need to be clean as well.
Yeah.
Because how many times have you gone into a restaurant and then you go to the bathroom and you're like, oh my gosh, if this is what the bathroom looks like, I hate to see the kitchen where nobody gets to see.
Right.
So the bathroom needs to be immaculate as well. But once they come in, here's what we've done is we only allow trials on our A days to start.
Mm-hmm.
So we have A days and B days. A days are Monday and Tuesday, and then B days are Wednesday and Thursday. So on our A days, we do our trial begins, and on our B days, we do our enrollment conferences. And the reason that we did that is, well, twofold. One is we want our program director, especially, to be in that frame of mind on those days, not having to multitask, going from, sale to greeting to back to greeting to sale. Right. The other thing is, from a marketing standpoint, like when we're onboarding someone, it onboards them every time correctly. It's speaking to them correctly, meaning they get info on day one, and then after they're on their B class, they get info, and then over the weekend they get info, and then back on the A day, and then back to the B day when they're doing, because within 2 weeks we're doing our, even though they have a 4-week free trial, on that second week on the B day, we're doing our enrollment conference, trying to have them enroll now with a special. So that's why we do only A days for our trials. And then bringing them in, once they come in, our front desk is right there when you walk in. So it's really difficult to miss that. Yeah. And so the only thing that's difficult is when you have 3 trials, if they all show up at the same time, because we have them show up about 15 minutes before class. It doesn't happen all the time. Usually somebody's late, somebody's on time, and somebody's before time. Right. So it's just acknowledging them, like you said, saying, you know what, I'll be right with you. And then, even though you're not working with them, the very first person that came in, they're listening.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're listening to all the interaction that's happening to that individual that came in first, or at least before them.
Right.
And so some of the information they're picking up twice, which is nice, because there's no, it's congruent. Most of that information is quite congruent. And then they get to see, before you even interact with their child, how you're interacting with another child, and then getting them ready. So I think that those are important. The acknowledgement of, hey, nice, be right with you. Or if they're the first person, hey, my name is Mr. Brumitt. Who's doing the trial today? That type of thing. Right. Little Johnny is, hi, Johnny, my name is Mr. Brumitt. Johnny, how old are you? Well, I'm 6 years old. And then I'd like to say, have you always been 6 or just this year?
Right. Yeah.
Most kids say, I've always been 6, the parents are cracking up. And then you introduce yourself to the parents. Hi, my name is Mr. Brumitt, shake hands. And then you go back into, all right, here's what we're going to do. So you got to pre-frame the kid and the parents, but pre-frame the kid. Here's what we're going to do. We've got 3 things that we're going to accomplish right now. 1, mom and dad, I'm going to email you the trial agreement. I'd like you to fill that out while I get Johnny's belt on and get his name on his belt and his picture. 2, we're going to get you guys over to where we put our material, your shoes, socks, coat, whatever. And then 3, I'm going to show you how to punch in so that you are going to know how to punch in every day when you come into class, and introduce you to the instructor so that we can get you out on the floor. All right. Those 3 things we need to accomplish. Sound good? Boom. Then we go and do it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I love that. So the process is, so even just going back a little further, we've already had many coaching podcasts on this, where we talk about every phase, every step is another chance to make a mistake, either gain their confidence or lose their confidence. And there are levels of first meetings, right? First meeting on the internet. Like, for example, I have tried to purchase a number of times a few things on a martial art supplier's website to place the order on the web, and it never works for me. I put the items, it takes forever to get them in. So now I just call them, and the one manager there seems annoyed every time I call. You could just place it on the web. I said, hey, listen, don't you think if it was easy to do and easier than calling you, that I'd be placing it on the web so I wouldn't have to deal with anything? I said, so like, there's a chance there to piss me off. And now that guy is not just saying, don't worry, I'll do it for you. Let's get it done. I talked to the owner the other day. Let me bang it out for you right now. Boom, boom, boom. I have the stuff on my step 3-4 days later. Like, he's right on it. He's the owner. Of course he cares about my business, but the manager, whoever it was, he sounds annoyed that I'm trying to get him to take my order. Right. So, but anyway, so we have many steps that we have to make a first impression, and they progressively get more and more closer to a first impression in person. And then that first impression in person is so important that everyone feels like the most important person ever. Right. And I think that a lot of businesses make that mistake. Like, they hired the person who is that teenager, or the person who doesn't give a crap, or is pissed off at the world, and now they're the face of their company.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ruining. Like, you could be losing tens of thousands of dollars in business. That'd be better to just put a cutout poster size, a business life size poster cutout of a person, rather than having someone there that could piss people off.
Well, I don't think it takes much anymore to actually make a wonderful first impression.
Right.
I mean, since COVID, nobody wants to interact with you. Nobody wants to talk with you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times have you walked up to a counter and the actual person that is supposed to be helping you just stands there silent?
Oh, yeah.
Until you say whatever it is, or you got to initiate everything.
Yeah,
they don't even say anything like, how can I help you? Or like you said, I'll be right with you. Or, even after that, even if, once they're done and they hang the phone, they just look at you. What?
Yeah. Oh, dude, how many, you've heard my stories, and I won't go into it in detail, but I bought so many exotic cars where I'd walk into the dealership, and, one time I was driving my Viper. I pull up in front of the Audi dealership because I like the new Audi. And I got ignored for 20 minutes. I had my daughter. She was 10 or 8 at the time. I said, honey, we're going to stay for 10 minutes and see if anyone even says hello. There was no one in the showroom except for me and her and I, and salespeople everywhere. And not one person came up to me and said, hey, are you looking for a new car? Like, they just ignored me. And I said to my daughter, within 2 minutes, if no one says anything, we're going to walk out. Let's see if they try to stop us. Nothing. Like, and it wasn't like I pulled up in this backfiring car that was smoking and it chugged along and fell apart and the door fell off as I got out. I mean, I pulled up in a Dodge Viper. So it wasn't like they were price qualifying me, or, that kind of stuff. It was just they were terrible at what they did. And they were never taught. What's that?
Car shaming you?
Yeah, but they couldn't, right? Like, so, but at the same time, I didn't buy, and I never bought an Audi. And that's when I think I bought my Camaro right after that. Like, and one day the lady treated me, when I went in, boom, great treatment, bought the car, left with the car that day. So it's amazing to me, like, how we can make that one mistake. So, and it's interesting too, but don't forget that people they're either looking to buy, or they're looking to talk themselves out of buying, or they're not sure and they're fearful of the sales process. Like, I know Grant Cardone, he calls it RDR. It's reactionary defense responses, like where they'll say, hey, can I help you? I'm not buying anything. Don't bother me. Like, you're already in your mind think like, that salesman's going to sell me. I'm going to put up my blocks and guards, and I'm not going to let them get away with that. So there's a lot of things we have to overcome to make them feel comfortable. And I'm looking forward to meeting at the Spark convention. I haven't seen him in so long. His name is Sergio von Schmeling.
Yeah.
And I once, one of my students, my relatives, moved to Florida, and they wanted to continue training. So I went around with them, and we ended up at one of Sergio's schools, Mr. von Schmeling's schools. And I walked through the door, and within seconds, his head instructor said, "Take the count," to his student. The student started counting. He walked over, introduced himself to me, said, "Can he help me?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just interested, blah, 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 blah." He said, "Okay, come walk me to the program manager," and said, "If it's okay with you, I'm going to go back and teach." But they were on me. Like, there were like 4 schools prior to that. I went in and stayed for 15, 20 minutes. No one acknowledged me. They didn't say hello. They didn't ask me what they could help me with. Like, it was just wild. Like, everyone who walks through the door, I sometimes get embarrassed because I go, if I don't recognize them, but they might be the grandparent or the uncle, I say, "Are you here with one of our students?" Or they might even be for our gymnastic tenant. And they'll say, "No, I'm here with gymnastics." "Oh, nice to meet you anyway. I just want to say hello. I'm the owner of the martial arts school, if you ever need anything." Like, I always want to make that first impression. So that RDR, reactionary defense response, and, how they're ready to act to us and how we overcome that. What causes a person to be guarded? And, this could be a defense response to a bad sales experience in the past, or they bought something and then they got home and their wife or husband like really blew up and exploded because they bought without permission. There's so many things that could be holding a person back and making them uncomfortable with your process. So we have to look at that. How do we make them feel like they're friends of ours for years and they just walked in, "Go sit on the couch. I'm gonna go get you a drink. We'll hang out for a little while." Like that kind of natural feeling.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think the thing that we have maybe an advantage over is, if you're working your desk or you're there teaching all the time, you pretty much know the faces of the parents. And so when somebody comes in and their face is new, you pretty much know, okay, yeah, that person's new, or I've never seen them here before. Right. So let me introduce myself and ask the question, like, "Are you here for, watching one of our students?" And then, "Hi, my name is,
Who are you?" And by the way, who are they? Like, if they're just a random weirdo off the street, we want to kind of be on that, on it right away, security wise. That's why I have an area in my dojo where we call our sitting area, and where the kids put their shoes and then they get sit on the bench before they go into class. And I have a sign. I don't know the exact wording, but it says, "No parents beyond this point." And it says something to the effect of like, your kids know who you are, but all the other kids look at you as a stranger. And, so that's why we don't allow them to go in that sitting area, because we don't want any kid or any parent to be uncomfortable with the other parents. We don't know, right? So that we separate them from that. And even at the end of class, they are not allowed to just run out and go to their parents. They wait until their shoes are on, and then we walk them down, and I release, "Okay, Johnny, go to here. Okay, there's mom, there's dad." And we know that there's a controlled amount of safety, right? And by the way, on a trial class, those are all selling features, right? When you talk about security measures, and I'll always say, my dad, he was a cop. He raised me in that manner. And I'm always, a little bit paranoid, but it's all for your own safety and yada, yada, yada. That's a sales technique in its own way, right? To explain that to people.
Yeah, no, totally. And then I think, especially on the first day, but every day, is the exit. So once they've done the class, when they go to leave, catch them before they're leaving. And then just ask them, you say, "Hey, how was your first class?"
Right.
Great. Yeah. And for us, because isn't it funny? We have black belt eyes. Mm-hmm. So we know what we know in our business, but people don't know what they don't know. And so I've had people, when we've said this, and I've had to change our onboarding, but I would say, "Hey, how did Johnny like his first class? What did you think?" And they go, "Great." And then I will say, let's say it was a Monday. "Great. We'll see you back on Wednesday, same time." They go, "Oh, it's 2 times a week?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah, it is 2 times a week. So that's later, or that's now put in advance. So they understand that they're coming 2 times a week, but we also reiterated on the exit when they're leaving as well. When we ask them how class was, "We'll see you on Wednesday. that type of thing. And then,
yeah. And by the way, okay, go ahead. Continue.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you mentioned you don't know what you don't know, which is funny. I just did a post about that on Facebook if people want to follow me and read it, about and how confusing of a statement that is to people. But like, you don't know what you don't know when a parent doesn't know what they don't know, and you say, how'd you like class? They say, like, he seemed to have a good time. I can't believe he listened. Like, at that point, you should be sharing with them what he did and how well he did and what you did in the class and how he performed, because now they know what you're actually asking. And they, oh yeah. Like, especially if the kid is shy and now you got him to go up in front of the class and punch. Did you see how I did that? Like, you have to point out the obvious to us, but not so obvious to other people. That's essential. Like, people forget that.
Yeah, we just got a fence put in. So our backyard got fenced yesterday and today, finished today. The guy asked me at the end, he said, do you have any questions? And I said, I don't believe I do, but is there any questions I should ask that I haven't already asked?
That's a great thing. What'd he say?
He said, no, you everything you've asked, I probably would have said anyways. And I can't think of anything else. But, I know to ask that question now. I didn't for years. I didn't know. And that goes back to not knowing what I didn't know, but asking the expert, hey, are there any questions that I should have asked that I haven't asked already?
Well, that's funny. When I made that post, people said stuff like, if I didn't know it, I would just ask about it. And I had to keep hammering home, you wouldn't know what to ask about because you don't know what you don't know. Like, it's hard for them to conceptualize that, right? Like, it's like, the old saying is, like, I forget what movie it was and what book it came from, where there was a student and they said, you know how to block? And the guy goes, no. And the guy punches him in the face. And he's like, I was going to tell you no. He goes, well, now I obviously know that that's the truth. Like, because you didn't block. So like, it's just one of those things where you don't know what you're supposed to know. And how would you ever know unless you had a mentor or someone guide you? So when the people are being asked a question, how'd you like it? Did you like how he did X, Y, and Z? Did you see how well he listened? Or if he struggled, you see the areas where we need to work on with him spinning in a circle. And there was a few times where he licked the wall and the mat, and that kind of stuff. You got to point out the obvious. So let me quickly give you 5 ways to overcome the RDRs, according to Grant Cardone. And we're almost out of time. And then you could finish it up, right? So I took these notes while listening to his training. It said, always with an RDR, right? Reactionary defense response. That's their resistance to a sale. Put the client at ease by letting them know that you won't pressure them into a sale, but you just want to give them the info they need to make an educated decision. That's number 1. Number 2 is know that most clients' RDRs are responses born out of fear and uncertainty or past experience. Number 3, know what they need so you can then put that client at ease. So ask them questions. What are they looking for? What do they want to achieve? Why are they here? And so on. Number 4, create responses to the RDRs by using what they told you. So my son is shy. Now you have a response, right? My son is, hits his sister. That now you have a response. So you want to ask those questions and you want to come up with that defense or that put the person at ease, mechanism. Number 5, use a quick close and quick objections to overcome their fear. Like, meaning that you would discuss with them, like, hey, we do a yearly agreement. Oh, we don't like yearly agreements. And then you explain to them why it's so important, why your philosophy is that they should stick with something and yada, 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 right? And number 6, this was the last one I liked, is look for the RDRs and where they exist and what they may get out of the meeting and the sign up and how they can overcome those RDRs. And don't take their time for granted. Get the meeting done on time and don't waste their time. Because I think a lot of times salespeople, like, I hate it when I'm ready to buy and they're selling me. And I'm like, listen, dude, I'm good to go. And, I'm like, look, stop selling me. I don't want it. And then sometimes when they don't want it, you have to accept it, because Grant Cardone will say they may purchase in the future. They may buy another different style project. They might go into your summer camp or your self-defense seminars or your bully proof,
whatever.
Yeah, birthday. They're not a lost cause just because they didn't sign up at your school. In fact, I have 3 kids in my summer camp this week that are not students that were on my list that did trials years ago, and I kept sending them emails, and they signed up for a week's worth of camp.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got
So
people
you just never know.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you want them talking good about you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you know what?
Cool.
Well, I was going to say with those RDRs and, overcoming those, a lot of those, he's just phrasing them a little bit different, but sound very familiar with, and that's where, like, I have an onboarding video that talks about the program, overcomes those objections prior to even meeting with them. This is what we do. This is how we do it. This is why we do it. Here's the benefit of doing it this way, even to the fact where, I present to them the price objections as well, and really the value that they get. And what most schools do is they, what I call in the video, nickel and dime you to death. So you're paying for this, and then you got to buy this, and you got to pay for this, and you got to do this. And, ours is, hey, this is what the price is.
Right.
And it includes everything.
Yeah, you value stack the heck out of it, right? Like, this is what they get. This is what they get. And you don't pay extra. Value stacking is such a great sales technique.
Yep. Yeah. So I love it. I was gonna say one other thing is within the onboarding process. Again, the greeting, we talked about all that, but on after the day after their second class, my head instructor gets a task to physically call the parent on the phone and talk with them and say, hey, I've worked with your kid 2 times this week.
Right.
They did really good. I love how they pay attention. I saw that, they were looking over at you and I really appreciate you giving them the thumbs up and saying good job and, whatever it is, but he personalizes it per person.
That's essential too. Like they want to feel like they weren't just there and put through this class and got the sales spiel or pitch. They want to know that it's real, that you care. And by sending that immediate, like after they're done with their first trial, when they're driving home, I'm sending them a text message, thanking them for coming in, asking if they have questions, saying we're looking forward to them scheduling what they have to do at that point in my school is download the app so they could book their classes. But I'm asking them to do that. And I send them the app information on, Snagit, which you gave me, and on how to capture it on your telephone and talk through it. Yeah. So I use that and send them that video link.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. So, well,
very cool, dude. Well, thanks so much.
Apparently I've got 2 months to get on that program, man. Can I digest it in 2 months?
I definitely would. Yeah, you do programs in segments. So it's like sales process, greeting process, overcoming objection. Like he has it broken down and they're short. Like if you had just a half hour a day, you could get a lot done.
Okay.
All right, dude. We'll talk real soon. Great seeing you always. All right.
Nice seeing you, sir.
All right. Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Martial Arts School Owner Talk podcast. This would not be possible if it weren't for the support of our amazing sponsors. Please check out Elite Insights for all your website needs. They can be reached at eliteinsights.com. Add Health Coaching, helping school owners create a new and easy to implement revenue stream for your school. Visit addhealthcoaching.com. Lead Hunter Media, your online digital marketer and content provider. Visit leadhuntermedia.com. Academy Kings Growth Consulting and Management Group. They can be reached at academykings.com. And Spark Membership, hands down the best martial arts software for school owner management on the planet. They can be reached at sparkmembership.com. We will see you next time.